So I wanted to talk a little bit today about the Hope Couples Counseling Lab and Research Center that we have here at Regent University. And I was asked to present a little bit about the research that I do and how it fits in with my work as a professor here at Regent. So this is the team of people that led this group. We were doing a long-term outcome study of couples who had engaged in the Hope Project over the last 12 years. And there were two doctoral students, Lindsay Solfelt and Tiffany Channing, who collected data as part of their dissertations. Dr. Ord was a manager of this project for many years, is now Dean Ord. Rachel Garth was a collaborator at University of Illinois Champaign and did data analysis work for us. And then Ev Worthington at VCU was the creator of the Hope Approach and a co-author on the article and co-designer of the research. So that's our team that were part of the article that we published in 2022. What we were studying was the couple therapy outcomes. There are quite a few research lines that examine the effects of couple therapy on the couples that engage in them, and they show improved outcome over control groups. So people that don't engage in couple therapy that are matched up with them. And in particularly, we know emotion-focused couples therapy, something called integrative behavioral couple therapy, and insight-oriented couple therapy has research study. The hope-focused approach has about 12 studies on the approach total, but only one on therapy outcome. The rest of them are more enrichment or couple education. So PrEP and Hope have a variety of studies or their case studies, that sort of thing. Those are kind of the lay of the land for couple therapy outcome research. But long-term research studies looking over 2 to 5 to 10 years or more after people complete couple therapy, we really don't know a good answer. There are mixed results for traditional behavior couple therapy with people who get better, but then they lose some of their gains over time. Integrative behavioral couple therapy is a different version and it generally does better, as well as emotion focused and insight oriented tend to have some pretty good 2 to 4 year follow-up data. So our research study, we have been running the couples lab at Regent here for 12 years and seeing couples, over 500 couples have come through the lab over the years in various ways. And it's a clinical field study, meaning we are studying what really happens in a real lab as we see people and we measure them. It's called a within subjects design, meaning we don't have a control group in this. Everyone gets treatment. No one gets put in a control group for 12 years to see what happens without couple therapy. But we have 12 years of data. And we particularly use something called the Revised Static Adjustment Scale, which is a good measure for the couple clinic. Just to remind everybody, the PSC here at Regent over in the classroom building is staffed by the doctoral students. They all have at least a full year of intensive training. And then we provide low-cost care to the local community. And then we have a supervisors where Dr. Jim Sells and I supervise the 4th years as they move up in their training, and they do live in person. You can see the picture there, supervision of their junior peers. This is the recent team in 2021. I don't have a 22 picture yet, but this was the hardy COVID team. So our picture is not all of us all together because that year we saw all of our cases online and we were able to do that well. The Hope Approach was created by Dr. Everett Worthington in the 1990s, and the original outcome study was a 5-session couple enrichment in 1996 in an original book. I was one of the authors on that 1996 study as I studied there at VCU at that time. It's influenced both by basic research of the brain and how our brain works with attachments with adults, as well as the basic research in couples and how couple dynamics work. It's called a strategic short-term couple therapy, meaning it's brief. It's 8 to 12 sessions. And it's built on a theory by social psychologist C.R. Snyder, that talks about willpower and way power, right? So motivation and pathways to change. It also blends in virtues from positive psychology, such as humility and forgiveness. And it adopts the emotion-focused principle that the couples bond with each other, the warm connection that they make is the end goal of treatment. And it's modular. We do communication work. Sometimes we do direct work to increase bond and intimacy, sometimes forgiveness, sometimes all three. This is the latest book on the topic. We have another one underway right now, but this one by myself and Ev came out several years ago and kind of codified the approach into a textbook used by clinicians. All the couples in the clinic that we saw across 12 years, we followed up with them all. So we originally had pre, post, and 6-month follow-up data for everyone. So thankfully to Regent University's small grants that they give to faculty, I took one of those grants and we used it to give financial incentives to people to do one more follow-up with us 2 to 10 years after they had finished their couple therapy with us. Right. So this kind of gets you a sense. Originally, there was 1,169 people who were assessed at the very beginning to see whether they were appropriate for the study. We excluded 477, and you can kind of move down here. At the 6-month follow-up, we still had 174 couples. And so that meant we lost 77 of our couples who either refused or we were not able to find them. They were lost. At the 2 to 10 year follow-up, we still had 122 individuals, which is somewhat amazing. It's very difficult to follow up on people as they scatter, particularly in our area where it's just very, transient. This is what people look like that were in this study, pretty similar to the local community in terms of race, age, a little bit educated, tended to be more Christian than other. We had only 7% were something else. People were moderately religious, so on average. We did have 3 same-sex lesbian couples who came through the clinic and we served them. Most were married, although a sizable group were either engaged or cohabiting unmarried. 13% had some kind of sexual infidelity. We generally do not see people who had a recent sexual infidelity, as that needs to be the focus of treatment, and the Hope Focus approach doesn't do that. There's a Christian version of the Hope Focused Couples approach that we offer. The first 2 years that we offered the study, people were randomly assigned to the Christian version or just a positive psychology version. After that, we moved to more clinical field study and we asked them what they preferred, and about 70% said they did want the Christian version. That includes things like prayer inside and outside of sessions, more focused on blessings, using a prayer journal for praying for their marriage or relationship, references to the Bible or Christian teachings, and explicitly Christian virtues such as reflecting on Christ's forgiveness as fuel for spousal forgiveness. Not all couples were highly religious and they have many traditions, and so we were always having to tailor that to their existing practices, to their personal style. We wanted to be positive and inspirational, but we weren't teaching doctrine here, right? We don't have that expertise, and that's not prescriptive. These are the results. It's a pretty complex model that Rachel put together for us, but basically what it shows is that we do see people getting better and maintaining those gains at the 6-month follow-up. So there's a significant difference between baseline and all of the other post-treatment 6-month and long-term follow-up are all different than the baseline. There were a couple of interesting things that came out of that, which you can talk to me about later. But this kind of gets you a sense. One of the interesting things is we had quite a few people who joined this who were non-clinical, meaning that they, 142 out of the 472 did not indicate that they were distressed in their relationship starting out. That can happen for a variety of reasons. They might have been in premarital care. They might only be looking for enrichment, or sometimes one person thinks there's a problem and the other person doesn't, and so that individual would come up as non-clinical. And so those are interesting kinds of ways, but overall, particularly people in the clinical range, they got better at a really nice rate. What we learned is that couple therapy does tend to put the wheels back on the bike, is one of our questions. Does couple therapy, help people to get them back down the road, even though their relationship still has some problems? Or does it actually take the bike and transform it? It does both, essentially. That was the feedback that we got, and people were getting better overall. But getting couples to engage for more than 3 months is very difficult. Very few couples did more than about 3 months worth of treatment, after which they either dropped out or finished their work. So that's always a kind of a short-term model. Training graduate students to provide high quality couple therapy is really a great mission and an enjoyable thing to do in life. I really enjoy this as a major part of, it's like a personal hobby of mine to do this. It doesn't feel like work. Not enough programs in training have the opportunity for students to engage in opportunities like this. And so thinking about ways for that kind of practical learning with the environment that we all work in is important. And turning that practical learning into research studies is really a great idea to triple dip. Right? I get to mentor, I get to do research and publish, and I get to do meaningful outreach to the local community and supporting and promoting healthy marriages. So you can always talk to me if you want to know more about the Hope Project too. So thank you very much.